So is it? Ah, so either I can connect like this, or sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Perfect. Does uh does this work? Yeah. Just get it on the right. Come on. Where's my mouse? Oh, there it is. Yeah. On down there should be. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I don't know what happened. Даже не то. Блин. Hmm. I didn't save this version, so let me see. Okay, perfect. So should I save it as a PDF? Since I'm having trouble with PowerPoint, maybe that's better. All right, there it is. Save it there, right? I don't see it. An older item. Okay, так, значит, вот здесь. Ah, what? Okay. Cool.
Dear participants, are you ready to start? Please welcome Kevin Smith, and he's a co-founder and CEO at Seedchange. By the way, he does speak a little Russian, right, Kevin?
Немножко. Так сказать, да.
Okay, please welcome Kevin.
Я очень извиняюсь, потому что я знаю, что, наверное, я последний спикер до happy hour. Так, yes. Так, я приготовил презентацию на английском языке, потому что я не ожидал, что должен говорить на русском. Так, мы можем, как хотите, я могу и так, и так. И начнем на английском. И если есть какие-то вопросы, если мне нужно говорить немножко... Okay. Uh, okay. Um, so, I hate speaking with microphones. I founded a company here in San Francisco that is an investment bank for early stage startups. So sort of like a Goldman Sachs, or if it were Moscow, like Renaissance Capital, for just for startups. And we've been around for a couple of years, helped several companies find funding, and help them grow onto the next round of funding. Also this year started an incubator in San Francisco. We have 25 early stage companies in our incubator, and it's kind of the same process. We help them grow. Early on, we did a lot of research to figure out how do people make investment decisions. So we know a lot about how investors think about investing in large corporations. We know a lot about how to make what the analysis is like, but nobody's ever really done research on how people make investment decisions in startups. It's a totally different market. It's a totally different kind of stock or security. And obviously, investors don't have much information. It's really hard to know, to find information out. I can Google Gazprom, and I can find lots of information about Gazprom just from Google. If I Google your companies, I'm not going to find out much at all, right? It's a very different process. And so what I'll do is talk a little bit about what we've learned, and then I'll show you a little bit about how that worked, if I can pull up the web, how we incorporated what we learned into our own platform to help people make decisions. This is just как-то наша биография of our core team, where we've been studied. I did, in fact, study at MGU once upon a time, a little bit. In the U.S. as well as in most other countries, I'm afraid I don't know the market very well in Kazakhstan, but I doubt that it's much different from anywhere else. Angels are a certain kind of investor. And you know what I mean? You use the same term, right? Angeli, or investor angeli, и так далее. You find them a certain kind of person, a certain kind of place. They are in certain kinds of places, and we know that. So they typically are pretty более-менее богаты. They typically live in or congregate in tech hubs, so lots in San Francisco, of course, New York, fair amount in LA, Austin, Texas, Denver, it's hard to find many outside those few cities. Typically very well educated, often come out of technology backgrounds themselves. They're usually part-time investors, so this is not their full-time job. This is what they do. Typically people will invest maybe $50,000, $100,000 a year, maybe a couple $100,000 a year, every year in early stage companies. And the average of investor sees between 50 and 250 different startups every year. So this is part of why it's so bloody difficult to find people and get in front of them. They get pitches, they get decks, they hear these things all the time. I'm a guy who tries to see at least 250 companies per week. And by the way, he works full-time at Oracle, so I don't know where he finds time to do all this. Oh, this is weird. Excuse me. So this is what we tell people who are getting ready to go look for early stage funding. It is a full-time job. Average, when you go out to look for your first round of funding, it's going to take 3 to 6 months. It's going to take working 10 hours a day, almost every single day of the week. It's the only job you can have. And it's what makes it terribly difficult for startups. You might have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. You got lots of things to do, and one of you has got to disappear for a few, do nothing but thinking about how to raise funding. And typically, you'll start off by trying to get introduced to 100 or 200 investors, and you'll end up with, you'll winnow that down through a funnel until you end up with 6 or 8 or 10 investors on average. And so you just try thinking about doing the math. If you're trying to meet 200 people and you're going to have meetings with at least one meeting with maybe 100 of them, and you're going to have follow-up meetings with maybe 50 of them, and probably several follow-up meetings, so you can see how many hours ultimately this ends up taking. It's one of the hardest things people have ever done. And so here are the questions that angels you should expect investors. First, they want to understand your product, your business. What is it? How do you make money? What's your, even if you're not making money now, what's your plan? How are you going to make money? They will look at the size of your market, your competition, and nobody ever wants to hear that there is no competition, because there is. There's always competition for dollars or expenditures. So how are you spend? How do your potential customers allocate their dollars toward this kind of product or service? Have you talked to customers? Do you know your customers? Are you certain that you've got product market fit? Do you really understand that one of the issues we've come across many times is people say, yes, 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 that's exactly what I want. They love what you do. I've heard this 1,000 times. I love what you guys are doing. This is great, but it doesn't come with any money. And so making sure that you've really got a product that people are willing to pay for is key, and proving that to investors with some numbers is important. Then people will ask you lots of questions about your team. And this is kind of odd, or it was to me at first. We went, one of the very first pitches we did for a group at Stanford, my co-founder and I, and it was interrogation. There were 6 people sitting at a table, and they fired questions at us nonstop. And a lot of the questions were, how did you meet? What do you guys do outside work? Do your spouses know each other? Do your wives like each other? When's the last time you guys, all 4 of you, were together? And so on. And they were really intrusive questions, and I couldn't figure out where they were coming from. And the more we thought about it, we realized many startups break up because the founders, get a divorce. And in fact, that's the #1 cause in the United States of company bankruptcy or company startups closing, is a fight among the founders. So you should expect people to ask lots of questions about the core team, about your relationships. They'll really want to understand you and be sure that you're really in this for the long term. Risks, people will often ask you, what's the biggest problem you have to solve? I don't care a lot about what the answer is. They care about what your thinking is. They want to know, how do you analyze the market, the risks? Do you really understand what you're into? And then, of course, people have questions about technology and your funding. Da. Они все рискованные. Есть разные риски, зависит, конечно, от технологии, от компании, от рынка и так далее. Но главное, это что инвесторы хотят знать, как вы анализируете возможные риски. Так, сами, конечно, сами. Могут согласиться, не согласиться с вашим анализом, но главное просто анализ. И очень часто люди могут задавать вопросы о том, чтобы узнать, определить, реально вы анализируете проблемы или нет. Конечно. Знаете, это очень редко бывает здесь. Это было более типично 10-15 лет назад. И есть сейчас venture capital firms, которые уже поняли, что на самом деле самый хороший лидер — это всегда фаундеры. И сейчас очень много, как сказать, более, они больше, как правило, инвесторы больше ам, э, часто не хотят фаундера. Так, я не знаю, я не помню даже последний раз, когда я слышал от такого события. Действительно, может быть, 15 лет назад. Um, these are the questions that investors won't ask out loud. They ask themselves. They're trying to get answers to these kinds of questions. But people often won't ask this. I talked a little bit about founders. It's really important. They want to know, do you guys like each other? Part of it is also, can I trust you? I mean, it's the sales process, the fundamental question of every sales process. When you're talking to investors, you're actually selling. You're selling your company, your product, your vision, yourselves, and that's the way you need to approach this sales. And the very first component of any sale is trust. Do I rely on you? Are you going to be around over the longer term? Can you sell? Somebody who is an angel, he invests $1,000 a year, where he tries, his objective is $500,000 a year into startups. And he told me that he usually makes his decision about whether or not to invest in the first 10 minutes or so. He said it all depends on sales. And can the guy on presentation skills? And I thought that was the craziest thing I'd ever heard a really smart guy say. And he explained that CEOs, founders, they're always selling. You're selling to investors, you're selling to potential employees, you're selling to potential customers and partners. And if the guy can't sell or the woman can't sell, then he won't invest. So think about that. That's another question people will be asking. No team is complete in the beginning. You can't possibly, with 3 or 4 or 5 people, have every skill that you need, and so you're going to have to hire other people, and that's a question people are going to know. What's your network like? Where are you going to find the engineers that you need? Where are you going to find the salespeople that you need? Do you have that kind of network? Do you know those kinds of people from college or grad school or friends or whatever? How do you hire? How do you find them? Another question, look, these guys are hoping to work with you for 5 or 6 or 10 years. So a question they have is, do I actually like spending time with you? I mean, I'm hoping to be talking to you every quarter. Am I going to like that, or are you going to be a pain to deal with? Then another question they ask is, is your product a feature or a product or really a company? If it's a feature, an app, not terribly interesting. There's not much of an opportunity to grow there. Is it a product? That may or may not be turned into a company, but there's a big difference between a product and a company. And so people will be looking always at, even if they love your, can that product be built into a company? Google, the dumbest, craziest, most useless product anybody's ever seen, right? Why would you put money into a simple little search engine that has no apparent means of generating cash? In 1997, that's what it was, especially when there are lots of other search engines out there. I would have said, and I'm sure people had the question, maybe a product, it definitely isn't a company. And yet obviously they've been able to turn it into a very good. Another question, another way people think about what you've got, is it an aspirin, or does it solve pain, or is it just kind of a nice thing to have? What is it addressing? And people always want to know who else is investing. Investors are really herd mentality. They never want to be the first. They do what everyone else wants to do and never want to do what nobody else is doing. It's just a fact, and it's Incredibly frustrating, but that's the way they behave. People always also ask, down to thinking about founders, can I identify with you? Do we share something in the background? It's a lot easier for people who graduate from Stanford or to get investors who also graduated from Stanford than other schools, for instance. I've known people, Bangalore, I know a group of investors here. They're all Indian. They invest only in companies whose founders come from Bangalore. Why? Because these guys came from Bangalore. So all their investments in the United States, or almost all of it, this is one way they sort through how to invest. For that matter, I know people here who only invest in Russian companies. All based in Silicon Valley, but they really want to be active in with Russian startups and with people who share the same backgrounds. Product, another decision point. Sometimes people can get excited about the product. Is it cool in some way? Is it something does it solve a problem for me like this? The first investors in Urban Sitter were moms. Urban Sitter is it's an online app that allows you to find somebody to take care of your kids, either for a couple of hours, weeks, months, whatever. So it's kind of an online marketplace for nannies, basically. And the first investors were working mothers who were like, this is exactly what I need. This is fantastic, and they put their own money in. Это просто есть здесь инвесторов, которые инвестируют только в компании, которые из Бангалора. Наверняка они сейчас, но это люди, которые родились или жили в Бангалоре. Они сосредоточатся просто на людях этого города. So we did, as I said, several months of research and talked to hundreds of investors trying to understand what the decision-making process is like. So as I said, it's a sale, just like any sale, and you can analyze what people are trying to decide as they go through the process. The average takes about 6 meetings. It'll start off with really general, do I like, sort of getting to, and end up, much of it will be in analysis of the company, the intellectual property, the people, the market, and end up people will focus more on the terms, what are the terms of the investment. And this is the process that so what we did is we really tracked people through investment processes. So from the first meeting all the way through, and got people to tell us what kind of information are you looking for and what kind of decisions are you making. So think about it as a decision tree. We wanted to know at every branch of a decision tree, what's the decision that people are trying to make, and what kind of data do they look for to make that decision. And everybody that we looked at follows this in almost the same order. It's a little bit path dependent, so there are a couple of divergences. But first, it's really simple. Get me interested somehow in what you're doing. Then people take a deeper look at the product, the market, the competition, and do you have a chance of ever making money? What's your business model? Next, they really focus on who the founders are. Is this somebody, assume I bought into the idea of the product. I like this market. I believe you that there's a lot of money to be made here, but are you the people to do it? There are probably other opportunities to invest in a product in a company like this. So I'm trying to figure out, are you the people who can get me there? From there, people tend to diverge a little bit. Either they, partly depending on their own backgrounds, either they focus really on the product or dig a lot deeper into the market. Only after investors get through this entire process do they start looking at other details like intellectual property, the legal issues, financial issues. It's kind of odd, but most investors don't look at financials early on. They don't care. They understand that the financial projections are made up. You haven't got a clue how it's really going to turn out. Nobody ever believes them. We asked, a lot of investors told us that either they told us that they never look at financials because they think they're worthless, or the other half said, I always look at financials and I never believe anything I say. So they're important, again, as part of your thinking process and understanding what you expect, but people rarely expect that whatever is in your financials is what you're going to actually be doing. Then we get to the deal, and the very last thing typically people look at are legal issues, except in industries that are regulated. So medical industries or things like that, that can be a really important issue up front when they start thinking about the market and the product. That's it. Естественно. Любой инвестор. Окей. Так, сейчас немножко зависит от города, особенно даже в США. Но в Калифорнии сейчас, в Силиконовой долине, средняя сумма, ну, где-то $1 миллион. Так. Типично сейчас используют векселі. Они давать акции, векселі. Это, я не знаю, как называется, то есть на русском, на самом деле, это convertible note. Так, да? Ну, на самом деле, компания уже incorporate, потому что не может издавать, но типично, вот, например, вот одна компания, с которой мы работаем сейчас, они тоже ищут $1 миллион, и они дают 5% проценты. Они дают, ну, не гарантия, но план, что через 18 месяцев они будут делать еще раунд, и за это время вот эти векселі будут конвертировать. Вот это план. Потом они дают, в этот раз это $1 миллион, это опять, по-английски это cap, на самом деле это convertible note cap, это вот название. И это значит, что мы не знаем, как, конечно, через год, через 1,5 года, мы не знаем, какая будет валюация компании в этот момент, когда вот эти конвертируются в акции, да, мы не знаем. Все зависит от успехов компании, зависит от рынка и так далее. Но скажем, что тогда будет $8 миллионов, да? Да. Значит, вот это даже сложно объяснить на английском языке, но значит, что эти инвесторы будут конвертировать, то есть вексли будут конвертированы в акции, как будто валюация только 4 миллиона. Правильно. Yeah. Итак, ага. Мгм. Но let's see. Значит, потому что эти инвесторы давали $1 000 000, и вот этот cap 4 в конце, в этот момент, вот здесь, они, доля компаний будет 25% для этих инвесторов. В момент конверсии. Так. Ну, это... Нет. Может быть, зависит от компании, но, как правило, долго. До конца, до выхода. М. Э, Есть инвесторы, которые были первые ангелы, которые еще держат акции Google. Конечно, сейчас это public company, поэтому, но сейчас я знаю людей, которые были первыми инвесторами, и сейчас они все еще держат акции Google. Так, did I confuse you? Is this... Так? Мгм. Мгм. Значит, тогда оценка компании почти $1 000 000, да, они считают. Так. Мгм. Есть еще какие-то вопросы, которые... Да. Нет, здесь это только проценты, которые... нет, не проценты компании, а проценты, которые... потому что, помните, это вексель. И платят тогда 5% в год. Да, годовые, да, да. Окей. Большое спасибо. After happy hour. Да, ради бога.